I'm going to do something a little bit interesting today, and this is kind of out of the ordinary, but hopefully it'll be fun for you as it's going to be fun for me as well. So recently we had a former student of ours and a friend of our academy, Trevor Tomoson, fight in a mixed martial arts match here in Sioux City. Now, you might know Trevor as one of our top jiu-jitsu students previously, or you might know him currently as the boyfriend of our world-class bullyproof instructor, Camera. Now, before I get any further into the video, just a quick disclaimer, we certainly don't take credit for all of Trevor's training. Trevor was a very high-level jiu-jitsu fighter for us, or student. But he's also trained at One Combat. He's trained at the boxing academy locally. He's trained with some wrestlers. He's done all kinds of stuff. He's traveled the country doing other training as well. So while we're very, very excited for him and we're excited to see him using some of the things that we trained here, we certainly don't take credit for everything that he's doing and everything that he's learned. But if you want to know a little background about Trevor, he has always, from the very beginning, had good wrestling skills. And because he's very big and strong, he was always able to submit people here at our academy, even higher belts. He would go other places around the country or around the city, and he would submit people of higher belts. It wasn't until he got close to his blue belt that he realized that because of the technical nature of our blue belt test, he wouldn't be able to pass the test without getting a little more serious about his really technical skills. And almost overnight, his sparring changed, and he became much, much more, maybe dangerous would be the way to say it for the higher belts, and much more cerebral with his sparring. And you'll get a chance to see some of that in action today. But then he really, his skills really dramatically improved at that point. He got very technical, earned his blue belt with us, and realistically, by any measure, could easily be wearing a purple belt or maybe higher. He's traveled all over the country, including to trainings with the Gracie family directly, and been able to hang or even submit higher belts, purple and brown belts, and just a really, really great jiu-jitsu athlete, in addition to his boxing and wrestling and all the other things that he's done. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. I will try to stop it now and then and give you my commentary as well. So hopefully that'll be interesting to you. So now, just to give props to Juan, I understand that Trevor had several fighters lined up to fight him that then had to drop out or back out for various reasons. Trevor's been looking forward to this for a long time. Juan is actually a local guy here in Sioux City as well, and he took this on, my understanding is like 5 days notice. So he's probably been training regularly at his academy, but not really training with the idea in mind of jumping in the ring. So that was, in a sense, generous of him to do that, and big props to Juan for having the guts to do that on such short notice. So thanks to Juan there, and to 712 for helping us be able to have this fight.
All right, Andy, we keep it pushing with the action. Making his way now to the B2 Digital Blue Corner, Juan ADHD Ibarra. Juan is coming out 0 wins, 1 loss, looking for his first victory. He's representing 712 Training Center, wrestled in high school and trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in high school as well. And Andy, Juan told us that he mostly is training no-gi at the moment. He's adept with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
So Juan has a wrestling background, wrestled in high school, which a lot of our local fighters have that level of wrestling knowledge. High school wrestlers can be very dangerous in the ring. That's a very useful, very valid skill in the ring. And he's been training jiu-jitsu for a while. You heard him saying no gi. So that would be the difference. Generally in our classes, we train with the gi or the uniform. No gi is more applicable to MMA fighting. However, one of the things that our system really tries to do is we really differentiate when we're wearing the gi between what sort of techniques work for real self-defense and what is more of a sparring type of technique. And we really train in a way that's applicable to both gi and no gi. mainly in the sense that if you're familiar with jiu-jitsu, we don't spend a ton of time training our grips and things that are very grip dependent, especially on the beginning. So Trevor has a lot of no-gi experience from other places. He has a lot of gi experience with us as well, and you'll see that played out here in a minute.
He's been training hard to come out and get his first victory.
Yeah, man, look, he took this fight on a week notice, so kudos to him, first of all. Second of all, he says that, his jiu-jitsu is his strong suit, but he wants to keep this particular fight standing. He feels like he has a better chance of knocking this guy out. He's a big guy, he's real tall, man, so he's going to be able to sit on the outside and hopefully use his takedown defense what he wants to do.
Now, this guy, he's got boxing experience and wants to keep it standing. I don't know what kind of experience he has. I will say that Trevor's been one of the rare students from us that people generally want to train for about 6 months and they're ready to get in the ring and kind of throw their hat in the ring and see how it goes. I think that's a bad idea. I remember talking to Trevor 2 or 3 years ago now, and he kind of had the same thought. And I said, take your time, get your blue belt, take 2 years. At least, and train to a really, really high level so you can be very confident going into your first fight. And, props to Trevor for listening to that advice. He did exactly that. I think that conversation was probably at least 3 years ago at this point, and he's been training regularly ever since. So we'll see how it goes.
But he said, you know what, man, if it goes to the ground, I work jiu-jitsu, I've done it for years. And so we'll see, man. That was a good interview. Great guy. And he's fighting a hometown guy, so we'll see what happens.
Here's Lance Green to bring out Juan's opponent now.
And please, welcome his opponent at the one more gym red corner, Trevor Tomoson.
Now you see these are some big boys, right? So the heavyweight division is, I believe, 225 to or maybe it's even 205, up to about 265, I think, is generally the limit for the heavyweight division. So these guys are really, really big. They're 6'2", 3, 6'4", something like that, 250 pounds. You'll see that, they don't need to cut weight to fit under that 265. Most people don't. But that gives them the advantage of being able to focus their training on specifically fighting right up until the last second and not have to take those last months or weeks in cutting weight and trying to make weight for that final division. So these are some big dudes that are in the ring today. And Trevor looks fired up. We're all excited for him as well.
One more jump red corner. Trevor Tomoson.
He's training one combat right now.
And as you mentioned, Andy, he is representing his hometown tonight from right here in Sioux City, Iowa.
Yeah, both of these guys. I mean, you got one guy from South Sioux City, Iowa, the other one from Sioux City, Iowa. They're both hometown guys, but look, man.
Yeah, and these are both local guys, of course.
He's been
There's a lot of
training for 7
excitement
or 8
in the room
years.
right now.
A long time. He's a blue belt on the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, look how both of these guys are rangy. Both of these guys have huge reach. There's not a reach advantage, really. You got a 2-inch reach advantage.
76.5 versus 74.
Yeah, so you see 250 pounds. These are some big boys.
That's right there, man. Exactly. But they're tall and long. I don't think the reach is going to play a factor in this at all. I think what's going to play a factor is cardio. Number one, I really think cardio. You got to think this guy took the fight on a week notice. Both of these guys took the fight on pretty short notice,
So to be fair, cardio plays a factor in almost every heavyweight fight, right? These guys are big, big guys, and you have to really balance your energy expenditure.
That's going to play a major factor in this fight tonight, I believe.
We're going to see. Here's case announcer Lance Green for the official introduction.
B2 Fighting Series fans, this amateur heavyweight battle is set for 3 rounds at 3 minutes apiece. First, fighting out of the blue corner. His record stands at 0 wins and 1 loss. His height, 6 feet, 4 inches. His weight, 251 pounds. He trains with 712 Training Center and comes to you from South Sioux City, Nebraska. This is 180 HD Ibarra!
So you'll notice these are 3-minute rounds. So on TV in the UFC, they're generally 5-minute rounds. The difference is because these guys are amateur fighters. So amateur fighters, and of course, based on the record, very amateur, right? So this guy is 0-1. This is Trevor's first fight. He's 0-0 so far. And the amateur rules are somewhat different. And one of the big ones is 3-minute rounds. They just aren't expected to have the same kind of cardio. And then in the future, if you were to have enough fights under your belt and decide that you wanted to try to make a shot at getting paid to fight, you could fill out paperwork and turn pro, and that would then reset your record at that point. But these guys are both amateur, officially categorized as amateurs, and very, very new fighters in that respect also.
And his opponent, out of one more gym rat corner, tonight in the B2 Fighting Series cage, making his amateur debut. His height, 6 feet 2 inches. His weight, 250 pounds. He trains with One Combat Academy and comes to you from right here in Sioux City, Iowa. His name is Trevor Tomoson.
Big.
All right, so Trevor looks confident.
Crowd contingent.
The excitement is
both
getting
of these fighters.
greater and greater here in the room. This is exceptionally exciting for us.
This referee likes to talk to both of his fighters before the bout.
Just letting them know, hey man, I'm the chief in this cage. You listen to me and listen to my instructions. Nice jab. Oh!
So now Trevor is a very accomplished boxer. He's been boxing for a long time. That was a really, really nice straight right hand right there. Now, I think from talking to Trevor afterwards, he said, man, it is different being in the ring with those small gloves and the pressure and everything, even different than going really hard in the gym with the gloves on. So I'll let this first portion of it play a little longer without interrupting, but just so you know that Trevor is a very technical boxer, and this was a really new experience for him.
He said he wanted to keep it on the second
sort of
right here. You might want to get it to the
idea of a
ground.
shot there, so he's going for a takedown.
This guillotine, Trevor Tomoson secures the take.
So beautiful takedown there, and I want to point out here, he did something that I was just super excited to see this. So you saw him, when he did that shot, Juan was able to wrap Trevor's head on this side over here. Now, normally it's not a great idea to get stuck in what we call a guillotine choke. Trevor, however, then pinches the knees here. He bumped the knees to put them together, and he was able to secure this takedown really easily. That's actually something that Trevor's been doing for a long time. He's so confident in his guillotine defense that he'll bait you into going for a guillotine. You think you have something, and then he'll take you down and escape it very, very easily. So he'll do this starting standing, starting on the knees, even on the bottom, all over the place. He'll stick his head in your guillotine on purpose. Even for myself, I know he would do that to me, and I would just be so convinced that I'm going to squeeze his head off and I'm going to choke him out. Finally, I'm going to catch him for once, and I'm going to make him submit. And then, of course, he gets out and is able to advance his position from there. So this is a great position. We call it Sidemount, of course, if you're not familiar. Now Trevor's going to do something very cool right here.
Passes to Sidemount.
Good job.
So you see his head is very stuck in this guillotine.
He's got the...
However, and I'm sure Juan's aware of this too, this is not the optimal side for Juan to be on to secure a guillotine. So if Trevor had to pick how to be in a guillotine, this is the absolute best place to be right here with his feet on the opposite side of the choke. And Trevor did that on purpose. Now, here's what's exciting. There's something called a Von Flue choke. And what Trevor's going to try to do here is he's going to lock his hands behind Juan's shoulder. Trevor's going to attempt to put shoulder pressure with his right shoulder here and then pinch Juan's shoulder into the other side of his neck. So you can see already a little constriction going on up here. Trevor's going to try to secure a Von Flue choke. This would be only 20 seconds into the first round. How exciting will that be?
That Von Flue choke right there. If you put the knee...
Now let's take a second too to see why this is a little bit suboptimal here. So Trevor was not able to secure this, just to give you maybe a little miniature spoiler. And I think this is a good angle to see why. Now, before I critique Trevor's any grappling at all, understand that it's easy to sit here in my conference room and critique his grappling when you're in the ring with the pressure of all those people, and then the cardio and the exhaustion and getting punched in the face. Besides, like, everything's different. So don't take this as being critical, but take this as in a perfect world. So here's what we're missing right here is Trevor's hands, I believe, are a little too low behind Juan's back. So if Trevor repositioned his hands up here behind the deltoid, like the rear deltoid muscle of Juan, I feel like Trevor has a really, really good connection with his own right shoulder here, and he just needs these hands a little closer to Juan's shoulder, and he'd be able to pinch this a little more. But I suspect if we talked to Juan, he would say, yeah, I was getting really nervous. Juan at this point almost certainly realizes that he's getting choked, and the problem is that his hand is stuck underneath Trevor's body and between Trevor's shoulder right here, and he can't get it out. So he's probably trying to let go of Trevor's head, and he's not able to. We'll see how it plays out. So you see Trevor putting that shoulder pressure. I think his hands are just a little low behind Juan's back. And of course, being up against the cage doesn't make that any easier. Now this is a little less optimal for Trevor to be in his half guard
there.
Yeah, Trevor really doesn't want to be in half guard with his head wrapped, but I believe that Juan has already let go of his second hand here. So this is okay for Trevor's head to be wrapped. It's not really that dangerous as long as Juan doesn't relock his hands up. And what Trevor's concerned about here is now Juan's going to put his back against the cage and start trying to stand up.
Underneath. So not quite in danger of going fluke. No, he's not at the moment.
And that's where Trevor is really doing a nice job. You see Juan is working his way, just kind of inchworming his way up to sit up against the cage. He's going to try to get up. Trevor's actually doing a nice job now. The half guard maybe wasn't ideal at first when you're in the guillotine, but from this position, it is really an ideal position to hold Juan down on the ground and not allow him to get up. So you see Trevor really doing a nice job of securing this leg down here and holding Juan down.
Really probably needs to let go of the head here.
There you go, wrist control. It takes a lot of energy now for Juan to try to get up.
And he's doing the right thing. Well, he was trying for that single leg.
And you see sort of a half guard here with Juan on his side. This is really bad position
right here
for Juan.
Trevor Tomoson just going to town.
Juan's doing a nice job trying to defend, but it's
hard. You got to scramble, man. You can't just sit here. He has to scramble and try to.
Now that right there was the saving grace for Juan. Very smart. He's got this leg locked, which is partly in Juan's favor, partly in Trevor's favor right here. It makes it hard for Juan to move around. But he was able to get a hold of Trevor's wrist with two hands. We call that wrist control. That did stop those punches for a while. That's a great idea.
Now he's retaining guard. Good job by Juan.
There we go. So Juan got all the way back to guard. This is what we call a three-quarter guard. This is very, very close. What Juan would like to do probably is get this foot out and cross his feet for a moment, create a little bit of space to try to just get a breather and not get punched by Trevor.
Almost.
Now what Trevor's trying to do here is he's trying to shove this leg back down in there, back into half guard, so then he can go back to work. You'll notice that even though Juan has advanced his position into a partial guard, he's got the foot on the hip over here, which is very legitimate. Trevor was able to make progress, though, in the sense that Juan is now laying down on his back again with his head against the cage, and this is a really difficult position for Juan.
They're actually say that Trevor Tomoson starting to step over to get back in half guard himself.
Now, just a little personal story. I was a little concerned about this arm right here. When Trevor and I would spar, it was very, very common for him to bait me into putting it in a guillotine. I would, of course, think today's going to be different, and I would try to catch him in that. However, this arm right here, I was successful fairly often in putting him in this Kimura as he would pass the guard in this direction. So he'd be coming around to his right. This arm is a little bit of a floater. If Juan took his right hand and put it in this gap here and grabbed his own wrist, he would have a guillotine. Now, I think Trevor, though, I remember telling him, once you get Kimura 100 times, then you'll be immune to being Kimura ever again. Or maybe I said 1,000. But actually what Trevor's doing here is he may even be baiting that a little bit. I think he's pushing on the leg here, but notice that his hand is hidden or ready to grab his own leg. So if Juan did throw this in, what Trevor would try to do is take this hand and just stick it under his hip right here, and it would be impossible for Juan, especially in this position, to pull it out. So even though at first when I was watching from outside, I was a little concerned because I remember doing this to Trevor a few times, it looks like he actually has learned those lessons, and he's in a very safe position right here. And there he's passing three-quarter guard.
Me too, man. I mean, he's doing everything right.
Good technique for the young man.
Very good technique. He comes from a good gym.
Now, that's so cool to hear because these guys are so complimentary of Trevor, and I totally agree. His jiu-jitsu is on point. He really is being very methodical, which is so important at these heavyweight weight classes where the cardio is just such a deciding factor, and being very methodical and Juan having to desperately defend one thing after the other is going to play a big factor in this.
And guys at home, he's not worried. Look, that little the arm around the neck of Tom, man, there's nothing going on here. Juan doesn't have him in any danger at all. But Tom's doing a really good job.
You know, Trevor's really nice to use his legs to isolate here, not letting Juan get his knee back inside.
He's sitting there in half guard, and he's good.
So here's a Kimura attempt from Trevor. This is a really nice job. This is going to be really hard to secure against the cage right here because Juan is sitting up. What Trevor really, really would like to do is probably step this leg out into side mount to be able to finish this Kimura, but it's very difficult when Juan is able to use the cage to sit up.
Here, was that a Kimura or a key lock? I can't tell.
Well, it looks like Ibarra's out of it right now. But man, Trevor Tomoson all over the place. Lots of submission.
Notice Trevor making progress though. So there he made progress again, right? He turned Juan away from the cage and was able to get him secured flat to the ground, precisely where Trevor wants to be.
Thomason in this first round.
Thomas, he's just on him, man. He's not giving him any room to breathe at all. He's
good,
doing everything
and Juan is
correct.
securing that 3/4 guard again, but Trevor's then
He's not rushing anything. He's content here.
No, it's just a very methodical nature. This is exactly how when you train with Trevor, this is how
just
he's smart.
guard.
This is
The
why he
thing
wins
is,
so
I mean, I
much.
would put my feet on his hips trying to kick out. He's got to try to get out.
Good. Now, Juan here is attempting to throw up a triangle choke. He would like to get this leg flat against Trevor's shoulder here and cross his feet behind his back. With this arm out and this arm in, that would be a triangle choke, and it is a very legitimate choke. One of the first choke submissions we ever saw in the UFC history. Now, when I saw this happening, I saw the triangle coming. I remember thinking to myself, man, Trevor is really, really hard to triangle. So what Trevor would try to do, if this knee got any closer, is Trevor would lift his head to the ceiling and do what we call posture. I feel very confident that he understands where he's at and would not let himself get triangle choked. Now, what could happen is one could then use that as an opportunity to create space to escape, but I was very, very confident Trevor wasn't going to get caught in a triangle here. He's exceptionally aware of triangle
Looks like he was trying to look for an arm bar right
brushed
there.
it off there.
Triangle attempt here for Juan Ibarra. Trevor
And look,
Thomason
Trevor posturing up, passing.
doing all the right things, and
Here we
he's
go, right in the
inside
side
control
mount. Now,
again.
this is a much worse side mount for Juan because Juan is away from the cage now. So Trevor's feet are against the cage. Juan is away from the cage and doesn't have the ability to wall walk or get his back to the cage and get out.
Trevor Tomoson looks like he's going to try to isolate the left arm.
Now what Trevor wants right here is a little bit of space to be able to punch. Juan is being very smart by keeping his head close. He who controls the distance controls the damage, as they say. Now, when I saw this here, I was super proud of this. This was so exciting to me. This is a move that I like to use, and I know I've used it on Trevor, and I'm sure he trained it when he was. I know he trained it when he was here with us. So what he did is he pushed Juan's arm down to the floor, and he's stepping his knee over the arm to isolate this hand. When Juan had two hands to hold Trevor down, it was very effective, and it gives you a lot of strength to hold somebody down in side mount. Once this grip is broken and this arm is no longer in play, it makes it much more difficult.
I mean, Trevor right here could go knee on belly right in the mount.
So he's isolating that arm. What a great job. Okay, so there was a cut there. That was the end of the round. That arm isolation was fantastic. I love seeing that.
Stay there.
All right, now we start standing again, though, so let's see how it
for a
goes.
silver lining in that first round. He came out in the first 10 seconds.
Now, I cannot overstate the level of exhaustion they're probably feeling at this point. They're not letting you see it, but man, anybody of any size is tired after that much energy expenditure, and especially guys that are this.
Took a massive right hand, and I mean, he was behind the 8 ball for pretty much the entire first round and was able to succeed to see a second round. Big
Got some nice kicks there. I like to think those are Taekwondo kicks. That was fun to see.
Good
A little different strategy from the first round.
Juan's got a good jab.
Yeah,
Juan's got some nice boxing here. I was
for Trevor
actually
Here's
Tomoson.
the problem is, man, he stayed right in the zone.
No, we
on
don't
that
like to
jab.
see
His
our
head's
guys
not
getting
going
tagged
anywhere.
up at all. Good. Now this is great. Look at this front
That was a
headlock
lazy
position.
takedown attempt by
Snap
Juan.
down, and then he's
Thomason
gonna
took
turn the
advantage
corner.
of it.
We would call that into the
Got
turtle
side
position.
control right here.
Juan very smart right there, rolled out. But Trevor, I know I've done that to Trevor before. He was very experienced and ready for that. I would even say to the point where he allowed Juan to roll so that he could then surf what we would call surf him over into this side mount position. So now we're right back to where we left off in the last round, 30 seconds later.
Juan tried to roll out.
Now here we're looking for a variety of things. You know, Trevor, first of all, just wants to secure the side mount. He's going to try to get Juan flat on his back. There's a lot of opportunity here for things like Darce chokes and that kind of thing. So if Trevor was able to get a control of this arm, he might secure a choke. But let's go ahead and watch.
Thomason's like, no, I've been there before, man. You're not going to roll out on me like that.
You can tell that.
Yeah, and Trevor's done a really nice job. And kind of an unseen, like hidden little jiu-jitsu gem here is that he's keeping pressure, inward pressure on this north side, and then his right knee, his south knee, is preventing Juan's knee from coming inside. And he did this for the whole first round and now at the beginning of the second. And he's really just limiting Juan's movement ability or his shrimp ability if you've done some jiu-jitsu classes. So some really nice positioning here by Trevor, really solid control that just makes it hard and even honestly demoralizing.
Trevor Tomoson has been around the game for a long time, and which makes sense. Of course, he's been training for 7 or 8 years, but I mean, he's a legitimate MMA fighter.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a legitimate blue belt. And if he's been training 7, 8 years, he's probably a little bit.
Now that blue belt was from us. That felt good to hear that. So Juan was able to get up. Look at that, guys. Let's go ahead and just take a look at that for a second. So Juan here. Hopefully I didn't go back too far. So Trevor's got a nice position. He gets a little bit of space.
And he's a legitimate blue belt. And if he's been training 7, 8 years,
and of course, I think thinking about punching, Juan was able to sort of build the house. He got in this hands and knees position, sort of turtle position. And first of all, tons of energy expenditure from both guys to try to. Juan's case to try to stand up, Trevor's to try to hold him down. Juan was able to build the house. It is very difficult when somebody gets in that position to really consistently hold them down, especially when they're motivated to stand up. And Trevor with a nice trip right there took him back into this turtle position. Now, give him a little 1-4 here so he doesn't try that again so quickly. And you saw Trevor just ride him over into the side mount again. That's something so common, and he's so good at that.
He's doing all of the right things in this fight.
His head control is great.
Making almost no mistakes.
Yeah, I haven't seen any mistakes. Always trying to throw out maybe criticism here and there for the audience at home, but I haven't seen anything.
No, not from Trevor Tomoson.
Juan trying to bring his knees in. Trevor that was a real advancement in position there when he got Juan to sort of give up on those knee escapes and lay back on his back. So that was a really even though it looks subtle, a very good advancement for
Trevor. He's just being controlled, man. Yes. He's trying to shrimp in. He's trying to retain half guard. But Thomason is just too dumb.
There we go. Boom. So we just saw that arm isolation again. It worked beautifully. Let me see if we can catch that again. So what Trevor's going to do is this near side arm, he's going to push it down and step on it with his knee. It's not at all painful, but it holds it down and prevents Juan from using this left hand to defend his right hand in this case, which then Trevor can go to work and start to isolate.
Really, Juan's not doing terrible. Like, he's just being controlled, man. Yes. He's trying to shrimp in. He's trying to
so there he pushes it down. Boom, steps over it right there. It's called the knee slice.
Now he's in a bad
standard Americana right here. This is Gracie Combative's blue belt or white belt lesson number 2. This is perfect positioning right here. Let's see what happens.
Oh, he's good.
And now Trevor's, we call it Americana. They call it a key lock. He's bending Juan's shoulder the wrong direction. Now, this is, generally speaking, when you don't have gis on and everybody's all sweaty, this is a kind of a hard submission to finish. The bottom guy just has the ability to bump his hips, and he can be so squirmy. But the fact that Trevor has such tight isolation here, and look, for a big dude, Trevor is just wrapped super, super tightly controlled right here on his elbow. And Juan just has no ability to get this arm out in time to defend this arm. And, of course, exhaustion is playing a role here as well.
He's going to tap. I thought about tapping
there. It is right there. Beautiful.
And there we go. That was an Americana, just standard straight up side mount Americana, that arm isolation from our blue belt lessons. That was super exciting to see that. I knew for sure what it was in the moment. You'll hear him in a second call it an arm lock, which was confusing to me. There is a straight elbow lock that we would have trained from there that Trevor could have done. But I was pretty certain when I saw the arm isolation, and we were sitting over here behind Trevor's feet, so we couldn't see the submission, but I knew exactly what had happened.
Beautiful display of
what a great feeling, right, of winning your first MMA fight.
Good job. And you know what? He didn't rush nothing. Everything was methodical. Yes. Everything was slow.
In complete control.
Yeah, and listen to the announcers. Very methodical and in complete control. Not only that, how exciting was it that Trevor was able to finish this guy in such a non-violent way? What a great example of the beauty of jiu-jitsu, right? So, of course, there was punching involved and some kicks involved, but ultimately the final finish involved no damage to either party. Trevor came away with just some, a little bit of marks on his face from some of those punches, but very, very good health. I'm sure that Juan is feeling just fine the next day. That Americana causes no problems based on when he tapped. There's no injury or even real serious risk of injury as long as he taps like he did. So props to Juan there.
Trevor Tomoson from opening bell until the final moments. What a hell of a performance.
And it's fun to see the announcers just being so complimentary. I felt the same way.
He trapped the left arm. That key lock was right there. And really, he had options there, Hacker.
Yes.
He had the key lock, which, you know, he's a blue belt. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. He wants the submission. But he could have easily, with that left arm being trapped, postured up and rained down and finished with punches, too.
Hell of a performance.
Yeah, of course, he could have just turned and faced Juan's head a little bit, isolated the arm and punched him.
That guy does not look like an amateur debut.
And look, guys at home,
You might think elbows too, they're not allowed to elbow the face, actually.
We saw
So
it.
that's why that didn't happen.
He's got dynamite in his hands. I mean, he rocked and robbed the rip in the first round. So look, the guy's a complete package.
Yes.
And everybody from his gym so far has really played out, and they look great, man.
Absolutely, and we're going to be right here in Sioux City, Iowa in February of 2022, so any heavyweights checking this out, you want to take your shot at the big dog, Trevor
February
Tomoson.
2022, I think it'll be hard to keep Trevor out of the ring at that point.
Fighting Series.
We'll see what he's doing
officially,
but I'm sure that he's flying high right now, feeling really great about himself, as he should.
Fighting Series fans, your referee, Marco Medina, has brought a stop to this fight. 1 minute and 34 seconds into the second round. Your winner, by way of armbar, out of the red corner, Trevor Tomoson!
Oh yeah, and of course, half the audience seems like it's there to watch Trevor and cheer him on.
All right,
Very
not
exciting.
quite sure about calling that submission and armbar, but what do I know?
So yeah, we would call that an
I do
Americana.
know, as I mentioned earlier, the B2 Fighting Series has the absolute best website.
Awesome, and we're gonna stop it there.
As far as
Thanks for
MMA
watching,
organizations
and
go, guys,
if
it's
you
not
guys
a
like
joke.
this, we'll do another one in
Go check
February.
that out. You are going to